Welcome to In Dialogue. The host here is a well-known, a well-respected gentleman from our community, and his good name is Mr. Bharat Bhargava. Today, Mr. Bhargava will elaborate on Indian politics. How interesting. Let's take a look.
Namaskar, I'm Bharat Bhargava. Thanks for joining In Dialogue. I didn't expect to discuss Indian politics on this program, but last week I had the occasion to speak at an event in Washington, so I decided to share my hypothesis here also. The hypothesis is related with the role of Indian Americans that they can play in connection with India's general elections that are due to take place less than a year from now. I offer this as food for thought, and I also request you to weigh in. You can send your opinion via email bharatbhargava@indialogue.net or Twitter @bharatbhargava. Elections in genuine democracies worldwide are the occasion when the politicians are actively in dialogue with citizens and are most tuned in to public opinion. We see that phenomenon beginning to take off in India right now. All the parties are offering to change the paradigm for attaining new levels of reform and progress in India. Given that, I'm surmising that Indian Americans have an opportunity to join hands with the citizens of India to make the politicians and the political parties raise the bar and offer convincing and inspiring vision and strategies that would address the frustrations of Indians and resonate with their aspirations. Fortunately for us, while America expects and deserves our 100% and unconditional loyalty, America also allows its citizens of different national origin to take interest in the well-being of their own countries of ancestors or countries of birth. There are at least two justifications for our involvement. First of all, most of us have a vested interest in the success of India because of our personal connections, or because our families are there, or simply because of our love for the country. There is a second important reason. I truly believe that India is in the best position to join hands with the United States in addressing many of the global issues of today, including those in the scientific, technological, environment, research, and other knowledge-based arenas. Many other countries cannot play that role, and sadly, some that can would not. No matter where a need arises, the U.S. has been called upon to help, and it has often single-handedly taken on the responsibility to do so, even at a time when it is virtually tapped out of resources and does not have the same traction it once did. Admittedly, the U.S. does not have all the answers, and while pursuing worthy causes valiantly, it has also made blunders. But as the saying goes, "Girte hain shah sawar hi maidane jang mein," implying that only those who do things have the possibility of failing from time to time. I was pleased to hear what Secretary of State Kerry, Mr. Kerry, had to say today. He said that the world's largest democracy and the world's oldest democracy are well positioned to roll up their sleeves and partner in providing leadership toward meeting global challenges. Because my work has taken me to every corner of the globe, I'm happy to report to you that despite India's shortcomings, the world marvels at what India stands for and its achievements despite the many odds against it. I can also say that more stars seem to be aligned in favor of India today than many other countries of the world. And yet, today, people of India are outraged. So why this Kolaveri inDIa? There are many reasons, as we know, and I'd like to address three major ones for today's purposes. First of all, until the turn of the century, India accepted and expected a mediocre economic performance. However, with the economic success that India has achieved during the last decade, the genie is out of the bottle. And while a 5% growth would be a dream for most countries of the world, it is not good enough for an impatient India anymore. IT catapulted India's economy to new heights, and the other sectors have to start increasing their contribution. The recent 1% growth in manufacturing is simply not acceptable. Secondly, corruption is not only a menace to Indians in their day-to-day lives, it has a direct detrimental effect on the country's growth. Granted, the scourge of corruption is endemic worldwide, with India ranking 91 among the 172 countries that are measured in their corruption index. However, I have found that citizens in many countries have come to passively accept corruption and gross inequities as a given. Fortunately, Indians have run out of patience with it. Finally, the recent occurrences of assaults on women have the country truly up in arms. All these are burning issues. Sadly, however, there is no silver bullet or magic wand that can be used to overcome the problems overnight. Also, in my humble opinion, some of the knee-jerk responses that we have seen proposed in recent past, howsoever well-intentioned, are not practical or sustainable. As we have seen in democracies, the process of governance is messy and difficult. It's a tug of war between opposing points of view which prevents swift achievements. But at the end of the day, this process is also most able to take into account the views and aspirations of the totality of a country's citizenry. Politics, politicians, and political parties are the very ingredient democracy is made of. And we need not only accept but fully embrace, nurture, and reform the strength and strengthen the political process. And my hypothesis is, the one that I'm trying to vet with you today, is about the need for a vigorous involvement in this process by Indian Americans before, during, and after the 2004 elections. A lot of NRIs are already engaged actively in business, investments, education, charitable, and other pursuits in India. My focus today is on our civic engagement. NRIs would be allowed to inject themselves not on the basis that we know more or the dollar remittances we make, but because today's NRIs enjoy India's goodwill as its loving and caring sons and daughters who are passionate about seeing India succeed in its moral and economic paths. India hamari jaan hai. So specifically, we can form civic groups within the US for this purpose, or we can promote formation of groups in India, or align ourselves and encourage our relatives to align themselves with existing groups. We can participate in promoting more active interest and stronger engagement by civil society in governance, forcing as well as assisting the government in carrying out a progressive and pro-growth agenda. Such groups can hold workshops, training seminars, discussion groups. In their discourse, they can ensure ownership of grassroots level and can benefit from the insights of the common men and women. They can build alliances, compile citizens' needs, prepare and disseminate position papers and recommendations, and engage in advocacy as vehicles for making citizens' voices heard and for ensuring a robust and healthy pressure on the political system. Non-partisan groups would have the advantage of their objectivity, but even partisan groups can help political parties of their choosing in the framing of their vision and innovative strategies for the country. As you know, if UP was a country, it would be the 5th largest in the world. I mention this to celebrate the fact that besides the national level, Indian states are significant enough that they are competing with each other for the economic progress they can achieve and for the foreign and domestic investments they can attract. However, this is not happening evenly across the board. During 2005 and 2006, I had occasions to address national and state officials on matters related with infrastructure development at the national and subnational levels. I observed then that while some states took intense interest, others seemed lackadaisical. That pattern has now manifested visibly in different levels of progress having been made by different states. For this reason, some Indian Americans may decide to focus more on the needs of their own respective states of origin. IT and social media can be excellent tools for raising awareness and level of civic engagement. We know, however, that while India is king of IT, the internet penetration there is still low and may have to be deepened rapidly. We can also be conduits to best practices because of our external exposure. For example, because corruption is being fought worldwide, many successful practices are emerging that can be applied in India. This is not the occasion to go into detail, but there is a need for systemic changes to mitigate corruption. You do need law enforcement and a sense of urgency as well. However, best practices also suggest taking targeted baby steps as pilots first. For example, corporations in the most susceptible sectors may be compelled to make public pronouncements about their anti-corruption programs, about their board and management's position on this matter, about their training programs for the staff, and about their attitude towards whistleblowers. Similarly, segments of public sector rent seekers can be targeted for attaining progressive wins. Yes, vested interests will fight at first, but there are enough tested practices that we need not be afraid of setting high bar for the country. People can be inspired to pitch in. कमी नहीं कद्रदां की गालिब करे तो कोई कमाल पैदा. Besides the three issues I mentioned above, there are various others towards which the process I have discussed can be applied. For example, because women have the primary responsibility for providing water for their families, especially in many rural India, and by the way, in many parts of the world, women and girls have to walk several hours each day to find potable water and then carry on their body or head with the attendant adverse effects on health, security, child care, and girls' education. The word panihari still conjures up a delightful and romantic image of colorfully clad, frolicking young maidens. I'm afraid the current reality is not so glamorous at all. In the end, in a somewhat light-hearted way, allow me to talk about the approach to be used in pursuing important causes. The science of physics tells us that energy can be converted into four forms: heat, light, magnetism, and electricity. I liken heat to anger and submit that raw anger, while understandable, is not a dependable vehicle for solving problems. That heat also needs to be transformed into light, meaning awareness, understanding, and knowledge. It also needs to be converted into magnetism, meaning the ability to attract the attention of largest number of stakeholders to this knowledge, and finally also needs to be converted into electricity for galvanizing the citizens toward positive and productive actions. I'd like to know your thoughts, and you can write to me, Bharat Bhargava at indialogue.net. Also, please visit www.indialogue.net for updates. Namaskar.